Okay. And we'll just give people a few minutes to start jumping on. And while we're doing that, I'll give more of a formal introduction and welcome the people as you're jumping on. Feel free to put in the chat where you're from, and we would love to say hello to you. So hi, my name is Karen Chertok. I'm the Director of Education at the Millicent Rogers Museum, and we welcome you to Millicent Unplugged for March. And I would like to first do our land acknowledgement here at the Millicent Rogers Museum. We are located on ancestral lands of the Tiwa-speaking people, known today as the Red Willow people of Taos Pueblo. We strive to deepen our relationship with the Red Willow people through collaboration while acknowledging and honoring the complex history of the Red Willow people, past, present, and future. We express gratitude to this land and to the Taos Pueblo elders and ancestors who have stewarded this land since time immemorial. Whether you seek solitude or speed, exercise or transportation, flights of fancy bloom when in motion, wheel and landscape merge at the persistence of a pedal turns. Remember when you met the challenge of learning to ride a bike. The feelings of achievement, freedom, and wonder are unique to this powerful milestone. And I would like to welcome our guest tonight. Ryan PETRY is a professional mountain biker and producer who calls Boulder, Colorado home. Over the past decade, he has raced at the top level in many of the country's toughest one-day endurance events, and now finds a balance between conquering big adventures of his own while working within the industry to educate and inspire others so that they too can dream big and unlock the power of the bicycle. And Angelisa, we welcome you back. Angelisa Murray is the founder and CEO of Heritage Inspirations. She spent over 20 years of her life as an active travel guide for a variety of premier adventure companies, exploring and wandering all over the world. And yet, no matter where she went, New Mexico always called to her. She explains, "This is my home." And after spending years excavating and learning from this wild place of heritage, culture, and natural wonder, there is no greater inspiration to me than to share it. Angelisa focused on developing tours that are about unveiling the other truths that are often not known or seen. Recently, Angelisa has added e-bike tours to Heritage Inspiration offerings. Welcome, Angelisa. And Molly and Raphael come from a diverse background of cycling, design, and travel. When they decided to make Taos their home, they saw the opportunity to give Taos a hub where people connect through cycling. This is how Rift Cycles was born, not just a full-service bike shop and retail space, but a place for cyclists to gather, share knowledge, and feel like part of the community. We'll have about 45 minutes of conversation, followed by 15 or so minutes of Q&A. Please feel free to chat in your questions and comments, and we'll try to share those along the way as well. Sara, would you like to take it over?
I would. I have just gotten hot for the bicycling thing, I will have to tell you. So this is a major plus to have organized this panel. I want you to know that it was the last week that I was in the southern part of France, traveling on the wine country on the back roads from Languedoc and Roussillon into Burgundy. But full disclosure, I was also at the YMCA at the same time with one of those wonderful Matrix bikes that has the video on it. And so I've gotten to be, this is so much fun, and to be out with nothing around you, that is wonderful. But there was a lack. And this brings me to Angelisa, because you make it interesting for the people. And the back roads in the wine country, it's just wine, wine, and wine, and there's nothing going on, and you don't know what's happening, and you know the culture. So won't you tell us, just start right off and tell us about Heritage Inspirations new tours on bikes?
Sure. So I worked as a bicycle guide for about 11 years with a company out of Berkeley called Backroads. And when I started Heritage Inspirations, it was after that chapter. So the last thing that I ever wanted to do professionally, to be honest, was curate and create bicycle tours. We really focus on, different experiences that really drive people to connect them to our cultural aspects of New Mexico, which is so unique, as we know. But when COVID happened, we had to think innovatively. We still had people that were traveling, but there was more of the road traffic, the close sisters that were visiting New Mexico. And so the idea was, what could we do to get outside, to socially distance, but still connect people in our curated fashion that we do with the different tours that we do. And e-bikes was the discussion. And a lot of that was, it's funny because it's such a touchy situation. When I used to work for the company Backroads, we at one point had e-bikes introduced. And the idea around that was to integrate multi-generational families. So a lot of times you have grandma who is with the grandkids, and then you have, different levels. You have a husband who's a hardcore biker who's really into his mileage, and you have a wife who's just loves him and wants to be in, like you're saying, Loire Valley and drink the wine, but doesn't necessarily bicycle. And so the great advantageous opportunity there was to put them on an e-bike. And but during those days, it was always that in e-bike world, but long before people really knew about e-bikes, it was sort of that people were cheating and so forth. As you guys know, with Taos, Santa Fe, and even where we operate down in Albuquerque, Taos and Santa Fe are 7,000 feet in elevation, and you have almost a mile high in Albuquerque. So majority of the people who are traveling, may do a intro 14-mile bike ride, but no way could they listen to our guides or get more interpretation other than trying to catch the wind and really be able to breathe. So it was an opportunity for us to think about our multi-generational families that we have, all the different styles of travel, so that people could really dive deeper into the cultural aspects. The City Different tour that we do down in Santa Fe is all about giving people that opportunity in Santa Fe when they have, 4 hours to get their feet wet into how to navigate the city. And so educationally, that's how we drive it. As you guys know, New Mexico is very complex in terms of our culture and our history. So there's a lot to share there. And what we do is take people in small groups on those tours, specifically for safety. We do, what we call pint-sized tours. So 6:1, our max is, 1 ratio with the guides, but it just gives people that real enriching immersion into the different cities that we're doing. So that's kind of our approach. That's how it came about. And our City Different tour in Santa Fe has become top 11 rated tours in the country. And it's amazing because you don't really have that many city exploration tours that are doing this. I think that e-bikes are really starting to become something that people are becoming more fluent with, but it really has been sort of a cheater approach or something that people don't do. And so we really utilize the e-bike as a vessel versus being in a van driving to a particular area or giving them a cultural visit, to just that, like you're talking about, when you're on a bicycle and you're traveling, that visceral sort of memory palette is vivid because you're smelling everything. You are literally, as you're saying, in it. We don't necessarily drink wine on our e-bikes because e-bikes are, you can go 22 miles on a bike. So there's certain capacities that we have to think about. And as we're working with the Taos Pueblo to bring that up this summer, we'll be launching our tours in June in conjunction with the Pueblo. And so the idea is just always to share New Mexico in this beautiful way that I think that people really remember and they really connect with a place beyond a bicycle.
I liked everything you said there. I mean, that's all absolutely perfect. And what was even more important to me was, as you talked about grandma with the kids and a husband who perhaps was an avid bicyclist and the wife was simply a hobbyist. And Molly, won't you tell us about how you envision your new business, new to you, I should say, just within the last couple of months, and how you want to create a sense of community for bicyclists in Taos?
Sure. Well, when Raph and I moved to Taos, and we were, biking around, biking on trails, we would always meet people, different kinds of cyclists, and no one really seemed to be connected or to have, people know each other, but like, it's not like in other places that we've lived where there seems to be like a central place or a location or these groups of people, with a really strong sense of community. And so we thought there was a real need for that in Taos because, the infrastructure is there. There's beautiful trails and beautiful roads to ride and beautiful dirt. And so we thought the bike shop could be that sense of community, or that place of community for people. Like, we want to create a space where everyone feels welcome. All people, anyone who comes in is automatically a member of the community and they're welcome. And we want to talk to them. And we want, I want other people excited about bikes. And we want to be a place for classes and workshops and group rides and all sorts of things, and just a place that people come for information.
And hold that thought, because we need to talk one more way about family, because you both are going to be upstage, because Ryan is going to show you the newest bicyclist in his family. So get your cell phone out and share the young PETRY in the family. You must do this.
Four-wheeler thing.
This child is so perfect when you talk
Okay.
about the family and how this is working. So please, Ryan.
All right. Well, I guess I'll just do this real quick because I set it up. Let's see. So that's me. This is the young version of me.
There we go.
And is this too cute?
So I'm sure I'll introduce myself more, but we were talking before this started about my life, and I have a 1-year-old and he's on his little bike already. He doesn't move very fast, or he can't turn, but that is Rowan. So yeah, it's fun. I think as a parent, it's just like one of those ridiculous things that you just, especially if you're really into biking, you just have to do, is the second they can get on something that resembles a bike, you get them on there.
Yeah.
But there's a generational thing about bicycling that almost everybody remembers their first bike, the first experience, and to bring that to the next generation, and it's memories and experiences that you just, they are so precious. I think all of you are bringing that to this cycling in the Southwest, and what more beautiful place than the Four Corners to do all of this. And Raphael, tell us more about your background and how you came to decide that you, the two of you together separately, were going to buy this business.
I think it's been something that I've been thinking about for a very long time, but I've never really had the opportunity to do, or like the right partner to pair up with and really attack like this idea that I've wanted to do. I grew up originally in New York, and I actually didn't really learn how to ride a 2-wheel bike for a long time. I had a bike that was it kind of had like, it almost looked like a motorcycle, and it had a gear shifter that was like a joystick, and it was like 3 speeds, and that was like my first bicycle. And the week after I got that bicycle, it got stolen. And then after that, my parents couldn't afford to get me another bicycle, and I didn't start riding again until I think I was like 15 or 16. And then after that, I did some college sports, and then I stopped doing them, and I started eating like I was still doing college sports. So I kind of got like pretty big. And I picked up mountain biking again. And of course, as soon as I got a mountain bike, I was like, how could I make this cheaper for me to be able to do it? And I ended up working at a bike shop. And at some point, the owner of the bike shop was like, her name was Patrice. She was 5 foot nothing, smoked a pack of cigarettes a day, and loved biking. And she told me, I was like, I don't want anybody else to buy this bike shop. You should buy this bike shop. And ever since then, I never really thought about owning a business. But ever since then, I was like, okay, I think I could buy a bike shop. I think I could run a bike shop. And, I started picking up the skills, learning. I started doing some mountain bike races, and then I joined a team, and then I started doing a lot of like mechanic work. And it got to the point where I was like, okay, I feel confident enough where I can make this happen.
I have a question.
Sure.
I want to ask Ryan about choosing to go into professional cycling. But before I get there, just listening to all of you, I'm really curious for Taos, from the standpoint of Taos, what your comments might be, or what you could share about a bicycle friendly town, because I know that Ryan in Boulder speaks on some of his videos that I watched about a bicycle friendly town. And so I'm thinking about Taos because I know at the museum we have more and more bicyclists coming. In fact, even last year we would just have people show up at the museum that didn't plan to come to the museum, but they were out cycling. And so we had somebody come actually to a pastel demo that just happened by. And so how do you see a bicycle friendly town? How do you identify that, and how can we improve that?
Well, we like our big inspiration, we spent the last year last season racing around the country and traveling to all these different spots. And we were in Bentonville, Arkansas, which is, I guess, the epitome of a bike friendly town, in my opinion. And it was so inspirational. Like they have, you can bike anywhere in like 7 minutes. There's bike lanes, there's like pump tracks on the sidewalk. Everybody of all ages, of all classes, all races, all genders are on bicycles, and it's so cool. And there's all these cool like mixed use spaces that have like a cafe and a bar and showers for people on the road and a place to work and a bike shop, and they have all these rides. And that was like that's our big future vision for Taos, is some sort of like community hub like that.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, how you obviously have been in Boulder for quite some time, have you not?
Yeah, like 10 years almost. So
10 years. And do you still feel, with a terrific amount of traffic there, that it remains bike friendly?
Yeah, it definitely is bike friendly. There's bike lanes on most streets, but it's really the path network that's pretty solid. It goes under the roads. I'm a big bike commuter as well, and yeah, you don't notice the traffic at all if you are a cyclist in Boulder, because you can escape it for the most part. Touching on Bentonville real quick, that place is crazy. I've been there a few times for racing, and also I can get into this, but I host a camp there for mountain bikers, and yeah, it's amazing what they've done. That, for anybody who doesn't know, Bentonville is in Northwest Arkansas, and the Walmart is based there, and the Walton brothers are they have deep pockets and they love bicycles. So they've done an amazing thing out there where they've really, turned that city and town into what it is. And it's unrivaled what they're able to do. You're not going to find it. Yeah, any town would love to be able to look something like Bentonville in the future. It just takes a lot of money and the right person getting excited about it.
That's very interesting. My husband was a victim of being hit and run on his bike on Cherry Creek Drive in downtown Denver by another bicyclist who paid no damned attention. So this is really great information for me personally. But won't you tell us, Ryan, more about how as a rider, obviously you can't, how do you make a living? How do you commercialize this wonderful sport that you have, at which you're excelling?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so quick rundown. I mean, I struggled in my little bio to say what I do because it's ever changing. But yeah, I essentially got into the sport. I've always been an active kid and found mountain biking after triathlon. Was not good at it at all, like the skills side, but I was able to pedal a bike pretty well. But I just loved it. I loved exploring. I actually went to school down in Arizona at Arizona State. So yeah, I just kept at it and was in school and did a couple races, and some that weren't as technical I was able to do well at. And I just said, how do I keep riding my bike and not get a real job, basically, and moved to Boulder right after college and just did random little jobs. On the note of, getting a job at a bike shop to make it more affordable. That was my first job in college, was just working at bike shops so you can get the deals. Because when you're an employee, you get employee discounts. Just kept working at it. And then I just always was looking for different angles of how do you actually make money in this? And it is hard. I mean, there's only a handful of guys that are really making good money focused on racing, because the prize purses for the most part just aren't there. It's not golf, it's not tennis or any of these sports where there's, you win millions of dollars to win these big tournaments. You win some of these races don't even have any. Some of the biggest races have no prize money. So I always knew that it was never going to be about chasing podiums. The race results are more just establish your credibility in the sport. Like, why would somebody look up to you and trust what bike they should buy or what tires they should buy or whatever? It's, because you did well in the race. But so that's where I started to get a little bit more creative and start to think, more from the marketing side of things is, okay, how do I add value if winning races isn't going to just solely do it? You need to win races and add value in other ways in order for a company to actually pull out their checkbook to any degree. And I think that these sports like trail running and mountain biking, they're passion sports, and you do them and you don't expect to get rich doing them at all, but they're fun as heck. So that's really that's kind of what it is. But and then I just thought, what do I want to do? What's my impact, and what's the impact I want to leave in this sport? And I just realized I love riding my bike. How do I, the bicycle brings me so much joy. It's brought me some of my best friends, my most memorable experiences. How do I get more people to ride a bike? And that's where, I came up with this one idea. And it's a project that I put on. It's probably the biggest thing that I do. It's a project called From the Ground Up. And now it's my third year. It's me and Alexi Vermeulen, who's a professional rider who's very fast. And we said it was right after COVID. And we said, this sport is very intimidating to get into. But if you get over the initial learning curve where it's not scary to go on every ride and you feel like you're a member of the community, once you get over that, you can really start to get all the benefits that come with riding a bike. So we put out this challenge, and it was, hey, we're looking for beginner riders, and we're going to challenge you to do the Leadville Trail 100 mountain bike race, which is 100 miles up at 10,000 feet in Leadville. It's got a lot of climbing, as you would expect. It was just a crazy thing to do, but a bunch of sponsors got behind it. That was the first time where sponsors actually, I was like, wait, you guys had all this money all along? What the heck? And so they finally, I'm like, okay, clearly this is the direction.
Whoa, we lost the sound there for a second.
Ryan, we can't hear you.
We lost your audio, Ryan.
I don't think
He's saying something very exciting too.
I know.
Yeah.
I hear.
I'm gonna.
We picked people. We gave them all the bikes, all the coaching, everything they could possibly need. And in 6 months, they got a training plan and they did their darn best at Leadville. There's more to it. And, we have a whole website and Instagram and all the episodes are on YouTube, but that's where I realized, okay, like that felt really good. And we inspired not just our 3 people, and they are still all cyclists. I mean, these people were like beginners, and now they're all still racing. And we did another season last year, same deal. And we've, I think, inspired a lot of people to get into the sport. So now I sit in this place as a rider where I don't necessarily just chase like race results. I more just focus on, and yes, I have a 1-year-old boy, so just my balance has shifted, and now it's mostly less about me, and I feel like I've already sort of established myself, and now it's like, okay, how do I keep telling really inspiring stories? And I love doing that, working with really cool people. I work with Visit Bentonville, I work with all these just interesting brands and people, to just try to get more people on bikes, because bikes are awesome, of all sorts. And on that,
Bikes are awesome. You just said it. You don't need to say anymore.
But they're scary. They're intimidating. There's a lot to them, and that was the biggest challenge that I saw. Is like, and that's, I think, why like e-bikes too are really great, because they take away some of the hurdles when people want to get on a bike. They can ride with their husband or wife who might be more advanced than them. They can get over the hill. They can plan more creative routes, right? Like they don't have to worry about if they get super tired. Like they'll be able to get home, and eventually their legs will get stronger, and maybe they'll pick up a different type of bike, or maybe not, but who cares? Because they're still getting pretty much all the same benefits as a regular bicycle.
Ryan, that's actually,
and of course our Southwest does this. Raphael, you have a comment?
Yeah, no, because Ryan was talking about the Leadville 100 and training other people who just started to like do that. And I did this race too, and I was like one of those people. Like I always thought I wasn't an endurance athlete at all, and like I would only I'd go to bike parks where they would take you on a lift to get to the top, and then you would ride down and you get back on the lift again. And then I read it in a magazine about this crazy race, which is like the Leadville 100. And I was like, one day I'm going to do this. And then I did the training and I did the race, and I was able to do it. And after I did that race, I felt like I could accomplish anything. And it's like, it's not, and that was even outside of biking, right? That was like something that's like, if I plan to do something, if I train appropriately, if I make everything go in the direction for me to be able to do this, I could do it. And I think that that's one of the things that biking in any way really gives people, especially when you set yourself for a challenge like that.
Mm-hmm. That's a very interesting comment, because to me, as an older biker, I love what Angelisa does, as in arranging the culture and history, and she knows every little wonderful spot, every corner, every interesting person. And yet, as the sideline, is just exactly what you said, putting the guests on a bike. Suddenly they have a new feeling of accomplishment, as well as the learning experience and just the sheer fun of what Angelisa can put out in the Heritage Inspirations tours, which tell us about the one that goes up to the solstice, and you stay over in tents. That's quite an exciting thing.
We'll be there next month. We do archaeoastronomy glamping in Chaco Canyon. Yeah. In March 18th. But I think it's interesting because when you're talking about conducive roads to friendly safety in Taos, it's one of the deepest challenges. And we are navigating currently how we bring our operation up here, because I'm a cyclist, but I got to be honest, in a more road cycling, I've had to switch so much to my Peloton, just because you really, in New Mexico, it's not as friendly is when you go into Colorado or Utah and other places that have these beautiful carved pathways that people can really, move over for other people and stop and feel safe, that type of thing. And I think there's a lot of exciting things that have been happening. There's also like 12 to 15 year projects that have been on the books for us to have a bike path from 150 at the blinking light all the way up to the ski valley. We're anticipatory of it. In fact, a dear friend who I asked to be on this, Lauren Bell, is working on that in Enchanted Trails. Yep. And he's really working on it from a state level, because so much biking in the town, we currently, as many of you know, we have so much construction that's going on, and that construction is going to be continuing. We think it will end in the summertime, but that's definitely something to look at in terms of, bike friendliness. The great news is that you can take bikes mountain biking, and we have some of the greatest mountain bike trails, to explore. But that's the challenging part. And in our sort of microcosm of what it is that we do in terms of interpreting on these different tours, what we're looking at is a different thread of tourism altogether, where in that we're in a very sacred, special place in Taos. We have the reason why Taos has the night skies, the reason why it's not overdeveloped like multiple places around the West, is because we have the Pueblo who protects our land and literally lives in symbiotic relationships, even with like the ski valley, that butts up to the national forest land and so forth. But what we're looking at in that ability to be safe, because it is hard and especially right where you guys are at in your shop, we've been trying to figure out different routes, and we used to do 14-mile, road bike trails. Literally, I used to ride the Enchanted Circle. We would bike from Ojo Caliente over at the bridge into town. Second day, we'd do Enchanted Circle. Day 3, we'd go all the way through the high road up and down into Chimayo and bike into Santa Fe. So we were doing long rides, and I saw and encountered a lot of things over my years and that have made me mindful as an owner. And then now having, for us, e-bikes, it's 15 years. It's not that the state mandates it, but when you think about having a bicycle at 20 miles per hour, I wouldn't want my kid on any bike going that much faster. So you have younger kids who are on that, and you have to think about so many things here. You have dogs, you have people who just don't like bikers altogether. I personally have been ran off the road a couple of different times from people, but I think for me, that's where my passion lies in the challenge, is that there's always an opportunity and a pathway for us to find ways for our guests to have these experiences in safe manners. And so, some of those ways that in Santa Fe and in Albuquerque, they're just different challenges. The great part is that Albuquerque is a really fun city to bike in. And I'm not a big Albuquerque fan. I don't know if I should say that out loud because we curate tours in Albuquerque, but we've just partnered with Los Poblanos down there, and the tours that we have are along the Bosque, and a lot of that is biker friendly, and especially one of the biggest visitations in New Mexico is the balloon fiesta, and during that time we do a sunrise, well, even before sunrise, a really early morning bike ride where you can get on an e-bike and go to the balloon fiesta and see the mass ascension kind of thing in a safe manner, because they have the trails that you can do that and so forth. So here our approach has been working with the Pueblo, because I also have a sensitivity to telling a native's ancestral story from anybody other than themselves. We are visitors of this place. We are not, unless I'm from here ancestrally, it's a very sensitive topic. So that discussion has been really exciting on the other end, because currently we're working with the Pueblo and the Department of Tourism to access back roads that will only enter onto the Pueblo, and that will allow you to see the bison, and it will allow you to get back there. And the whole idea is to give you that curated, rich story that you just don't get when you're in the Pueblo. You go and you do these tours there, and some people, I think, miss the mark or don't have this connection. And so that's where I'm always like, how can we really unveil things to a point where, from the young kid to grandma to young couples to, you know, all the different visitations that we have, and speak to the heart of what Taos is. And Taos, you know, as you guys are deeply embedded into that, I think that's the beautiful parts of storytelling through bikes. To me, it's this new phenomenon of like how the sky is the limit. And the idea now is, you know, and next year I want to do multi-day e-bike tours where we could take people from all the different regions that we have and give them that opportunity to see different places and so forth. Yeah.
And of
I
course,
think
just being in the nature is wonderful.
I think it gives a different level of accessibility in many ways. And everybody's talking about the passion and the storytelling, which that's why I wanted to bring this, you know, to this discussion at the museum, because that's part of what the museum shares too, is connecting with people through storytelling and through their passions. And so the cycling industry, the e-bikes, all of these pieces, you're connecting with people's passions, but also people wanting to do something new, something fresh. And I think, Angelisa, that accessibility piece is part of what you bring to the table. And I really appreciate that you're, you know, making those efforts to bring more of that to Taos. I'd also like to ask what recommendations might you give people who want to try, but they're just not sure, you know, like the beginner. Ryan, you said you do these workshops, and you might have people, Angelisa, who want to sign up for a tour, but they're not quite sure. And then also from the standpoint of, you know, do people have to have a bike fitted to them specifically? There are barriers. What are the barriers that people face, and what can we talk about in terms of mitigating that?
Well, I think for us, I'll just speak real quickly that a lot of times it's people that have never ridden a bike before. Like, people are really weird about bikes. Like, either you've ridden them and you're comfortable and it's a great element for you, or a lot of times you'll get people, especially on an e-bike, because you have a throttle, you have, you know, in people's minds too, I have the antithesis where you have people who come down from Colorado all day long and then will say to me, we don't e-bike, but we want to have a tour. And I'm like, but you came here to the e-bike shop and you want to have a tour. So these are the bikes that we have. What you could do is turn the throttle off and you could ride the 70-pound bike. And so people do that. And then about 10, 15 minutes of the uphill that we actually do take big people, small people, little people, it doesn't matter what kind of people they are, on hills, because Santa Fe is probably one of the most hilliest city to navigate. People turn their throttle back on, their battery back on. And here's my whole thing, because there's so much ego around at the athletic world that sometimes that's what we're really trying to bridge the gap for, is to create more like safeness in that experience, and that this isn't a competition. This is about an experience for you. This is not about the guy next to you or anybody else. What we want to do is put you safely on a bike. And we spend a lot of time on that safety element in our company. We have to, and really that ability for people, because, you know, people don't understand what an e-bike is. And the whole idea behind an e-bike is that it is so fun. It's like, I was so against it for so long because I was such a road cyclist. And then the first time that we were navigating them and I was kind of checking out the different fleets and when we were going to realize that we were going to buy them and so forth, what's so fun is that when you start to pedal, the pedal assist works with you. So you can be going up a hill and you're engaging and you're pedaling, and it's almost like you have superpowers. You just have this like super fun. And we call them, literally for us on a marketing standpoint, but also just we speak from the heart and what I do. And it's like the time machine back to childhood. That's literally how we refer to e-bikes, because you don't have to have this like you know, my dad is very, very competitive with me, and I got him into biking years ago, and I've biked all over the world and done all these different things with him. And he always has to be winning. And then you put him on an e-bike and he's like awkward. It's so fun. I'm like, this is so great, because you're being like, there's just a part about it where I feel like if you were afraid to bicycle, and also you have all these different things that are happening around it, right? You have traffic lights, you have to stop, you're listening to your guide. So we're really trying to keen on, which is why we keep the tours size, because if you have larger groups, which we used to run 26 people on a bicycle tour for 7 to 10 days, depending on where we were. That's a lot of people in tow. But then you have support systems where you have vans coming up, and, you know, M&Ms to make them happy, and different things that you do at the ports and so forth. But I think for us, that opportunity, again, is just, there is something so magical and so fun that when people finally, it does click, our guy, like people, it's amazing. And it's this opportunity to really let down the guard of the fear of all the things that come with the bike. The e-bike, I will say, you know, coming from carbon bikes, and, you know, I could lift it up with my like finger. They're very heavy. So that's also been something with like teaching people how to do that. And there's all different types of bikes, you know, like e-bikes, that is. You have a step through where I'm 4'10", I am very tiny. So to step through a bike is much better than for like a bigger bike that my husband at 6 foot would ride, kind of thing. And yes, there's fitting differences, there's comfortability, and we put everybody in the parking lot. We give them, you know, a whole demo. We have a script that we show them in terms of all the consistency to our safety talk and so forth. And safety for us is always about, like, if safety isn't first, then you can't have fun. And that's why we, you know, obviously we lean heavy on that. And people, I think a lot of times too, go through it and they're a little uncomfortable, because when you're on an e-bike, you can go really fast. And the tendency is to ride the throttle, where what we're trying to teach them to do is to ride with the pedal assist component. And so
that's interesting. Molly and Raphael, talk to us about how you get people started in your vision for opening your shop again for the season. And I am assuming that you sell bikes as well as offering service.
Yeah, and actually, so we're going to be selling all, like, the shop came with maybe 40 older 80s, 90s steel and aluminum frame road bikes and mountain bikes in various states of disrepair. So we're actually currently working on fixing all of those up, and we're actually planning to have a sale for locals really cheap, like $100 to $300. Trying to get just people up bikes that they can take around town, bikes that they can take on like a, you know, a smooth trail.
Yeah, and like, or commute with them,
Yeah.
or they could be their mode of transportation with some, and they're going to be bikes that are way nicer than that price point, but
Yeah.
and they're also going to be like very safe. So we definitely want to throw those bikes out in the community. Well, it makes space for us to put in other bikes that we would want to put in there, and also we think it's going to help out.
And we're also planning to, we're going to have a rental demo fleet of bikes too, that people can try out. And this, we'll be able to order people custom bikes or bikes from this company as well after they try them out with us. So we'll be able to offer that service as well. And we're planning to do some demo days where they'll be free to the public, like at Rift Valley or something like that too throughout the summer.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like that's all the things the community would need, that accessibility, getting over the fear of, okay, how do I choose the right one? And is it really going to be $5,000, which might be entry level, and the affordability and the accessibility and the instruction. I think that's major in your community there. And especially with, you've got an awful lot of older people, and if they can get into it, I think you'd have grandparents all over the place running around with their grandkids and having a blast doing it.
Well, we won't have e-bikes yet, but that's not off the table.
No,
That's
definitely not. We
definitely a future plan.
would love to have them. Like the things that I've seen that have allowed people who do not have the full mobility that other people might have, like to be able to see incredible things. There's this ride that goes from Aspen to Crested Butte, and the high point of the ride is Star Pass. And when I did this ride for my birthday, because I like doing my mileage for my birthday on mountain bikes.
The Grand Traverse.
40 miles for 40 years.
Yeah. So I got to the top of Star Pass, and when I got over there, and before this, I was like I was of the ego of like, oh, we don't need to have e-bikes and things like that. But when I got to the top of the pass, and I was like, oh, this is beautiful, this is gorgeous, and I saw somebody else like up there with an e-bike, and he had a lower leg mobility issue, and I was like, I felt so terrible. Like for such a long time, I was like, oh, I think that e-bikes are not these great things. And then I saw him and how he was enjoying that, and like how if he didn't have the e-bike, he wouldn't be able to see that, and he wouldn't be able to experience that. And after that, my idea about e-bikes has completely changed. Right? It's been like anything that gets somebody to have these like great experiences that I've had on a mountain bike, I want to make sure that they can do it too.
Yeah, it's like
That's fabulous.
I want to bring up what's in the chat right now, which is
Go for it.
Janet is asking, so how does an 80-year-old in Golden, Colorado connect and try this? I've ridden a bike, but not for a while. And I think that's what we're kind of after. Who wants to answer that?
go rent an e-bike from Specialized. Don't they have an e-bike demo? Place?
Yeah. Well, of course we're gonna say this because we own a bike shop, but like I think one of the better places to start is at a bike shop, because there you're gonna find people who will help you out to try to make you feel safe. And then you could contact Kamba too. I think that they're no longer an IMBA chapter, but they are a mountain bike association over there, and they also do a lot of coaching, and go to one of these courses and one of these skills clinics. A lot of it, they don't put you on like the biggest mountains. A lot of what what you learn, you could learn to be very safe on a bike in a parking lot. You will learn basics that you need, like be able to stay up, be able to feel safe, like feel like where to like point the handlebars, how to put the weight on your feet, like in a parking lot. And getting coaching is probably the best.
Put that in the chat if you would, Raphael,
sure.
for Janet, the name of the company. And then I was hoping that Ryan, you would know some bike shops that would be nearby to Janet, that she could take Raphael's advice, where she could, come in. I mean, 80 is not that old.
Right.
Oh,
And this also makes me think, Angelisa, I'm looking at our little bike rack at the museum, but our parking lot. I mean, totally. You could come up with e-bikes and we could close off the parking lot and people could have a little training thing just to even expose them to it. I think there's a lot of possibilities out there. People just start connecting and having these conversations.
Yeah. Something I was going to say, and, Golden is, I don't know Golden as well as Boulder. I'm usually just driving through it. But I mean, Boulder, obviously, I know that the shops here, and I'm sure Golden has great shops. I wish I just knew. Specialized Boulder, I know for sure has e-bike rentals, but they're in Boulder. Something I just wanted to say, because I think a bike shop is the place to go. And I think it's really interesting that you guys just bought your bike shop in it, but the direction that you're going with it, because a lot of people might not really understand. It's kind of, bike shops are a retailer, and just, how Amazon is taking over the world. There's also direct to consumers happening in bikes too. And what's the bike shop industry has kind of gotten filtered out, and the ones that are good and the ones that are going to thrive in this whole situation are going to be community focused. They're going to be focused on that experience, the demos, they're going to be friendly. So I think you guys have the perfect approach. It's because you realize you can't fight with, you can't always argue with where people get their things, but you can build that community. You can create a place where people come, and people will just, yes, they want that expert advice, and you're right there to sell them the things that they need, but they're going to want to support you, and they're going to want to tell all their friends. And I really like your approach. And I think that that's kind of where all the bike shops are going to end up being, is yes, there's somewhere where you can get your bike worked on, which that will never get outsourced. And you can buy things, but it's a place where you can go and see people, and get just a trusted, happy hand to just get you on your way, whatever you're trying to do. So kudos to you for thinking like that to make that community space.
Well, it's absolutely wonderful for our age group. I guess I'm probably the oldest one here. I'm real close to Janet, not quite. And it's absolutely wonderful to be out like that. To me, the whole thing is that you have nothing over your head. And somehow there's something that comes down from the sky in nature, and that panorama all the way around you is an experience like there is no other, regardless of where you are. But in this historic area that is the Four Corners, I don't know Utah real well, but of course that's a biking capital in all the national parks. And Ryan, I'm sure you've done all of those rides multiple times. It's first class, and you can do this. Do you have, by chance, in that in your sharing, do you have some hero pictures of yourself on the trail that we could see?
You keep throwing me out there like that.
Well, I was wondering, you showed us that one near the mile marker that was really sweet. And I was,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of photos of me doing cool stuff, standing on top of mountains, but it's like, yeah, I could show you that. You could look up some things that I've done. I guess because you're asking, I guess I'll just do this. I mean, this is a project that I did.
We want to give you credit here and applaud.
I mean, this is just one that I quickly found. So this is me during a project. I think everyone can see it. It was in Colorado, and I rode, it was called the Impossible Route. And there's a guy who runs YouTube channel called the Vegan Cyclist. He's got quite the personality, and he invited me to ride around Telluride over all these big mountain passes. So in one day we did like 7 or 8 of these huge old mining passes. And this is just one of them. In the middle of the day, it ended up being like a 12 or 13 hour ride with like 25,000 feet of climbing and too many miles. So, that's the kind of stuff that I think I live for. And, that ride that, Rafa, you mentioned, the Grand Traverse, I mean, those types of experiences out here in Colorado, that you can do those too. I mean, anywhere where there's big mountains. And I think this just touches on a note of like, and I'll go get out of this, just touches on a note of like this sport, as you progress in it, and I think in any sport, you always are looking for a new challenge. And I think it's good to always be challenging yourself, because you find this sense of fulfillment, reward. It's cool. It's cool. I mean, you can do it in a business sense, you can do it in sports, but that sense, it doesn't have to be massive things that you do. Whatever, it could be learning to ride a bike. It could be, your first 5-mile ride. It could be, you can conquer so many things and get that same feeling that I get on a 12-hour bike ride. I've been doing this such a long time that I'm able to barely, without getting injured, because it's just like the limits. I'm able to do these things, but I think these days with social media and a lot of the things that we see are people doing these huge things and they're inspirational. But the reason I started that project from the ground up is because I wanted people to realize that taking on a challenge of any size that's appropriate for you, that feels a little scary, that feels intimidating, that's all you got to find. And that's like the magic that can hook you on biking. So, if an e-bike helps you to get going, if that's what you want to stick with, e-bikes are still really hard. I mean, I've ridden e-bikes and you can make them as hard or as easy as you want them to be, because you can adjust how much support you have with the bike, how much, the engine is really, or the battery is really kicking in. So all I'm saying here is like anybody who's trying to get into it, or like, there's so much reward and just excitement out there at every level. And don't be, maybe you wouldn't get like this, but don't ever be discouraged. Like, oh, I'll never be able to do that. And that's what my friends can do. And that's what all these people do. So maybe it's not going to be that fun. Like, it will be fun wherever you start from.
We've got just a couple minutes left. Angelisa, will you please tell our audience how to get you and how to research about the tours that you're offering this year? And I'm sure your Chaco Canyon is full, darn it, but maybe there's going to be other opportunities. We have just a couple minutes, so 60 seconds. Tell us.
Our website's heritageinspirations.com. We've got 3 travel hubs in Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and Taos. You can come visit us at El Monte Sagrado. We're located inside here in Taos, in Spalt Loreto in Santa Fe, and at Los Poblanos down in Albuquerque. You can email us, and we have over 40 different tours that we do. So there's all sorts of things for people to find, to connect with friends, family, loved ones. Yeah.
Super, thank you. And Molly, why don't you give us the lowdown exactly where is your bike shop so people can find it, and tell us about your opening and the special things that are going to happen around that.
Yeah, we're Rift Cycles. We are officially opening April 1st, but if you stop by, you might catch us in there renovating. Lots of people are, and we're still happy to help you out amid all the construction right now. But the official opening is April 1st. We're at 1103 Paseo del Pueblo Norte in El Prado, just north of the plaza, like a mile. We have an opening party we're having on April 8th. Which is the same weekend as the Ski Valley closing. So if you're in town to ski, come down, have some free beer, listen to some tunes, and check out the shop, fully renovated. It has been a true labor of love. Yes. So it's going to be.
So you have on your website, you're opening?
We don't have it up on the website yet, but we're about to. Our website is riftcycles.com, and the other best source of information is our Instagram account, which is at rift.cycles.
Yep.
And in El Prado, is it near Sid's Grocery, or where?
It's north of Hale Creek, so it's in the same plaza as Taos Crating.
You're right by Bison Star.
Yeah, right next to Bison Star.
Bison Star.
Yeah, Angela and Jackie, they're the best.
Yeah, we love Jackie. Yeah.
Oh, she made such great enchiladas for us, like 2 days into us.
Oh my God, her mom, his dad, his aunt does orno baking as well. And we do orno baking at the Pueblo, and they're amazing. They feed well.
Yeah.
She's going to be on one of our shows in May because we're doing boutique businesses, and I've talked to
Bison Star. Yes, we look forward to them. Cool. Last note, can you help our participant? Miss Janet says, can you give I'm assuming she means the address on the web for these various either bike shops or for the comba cycling coaching, so that she has a quick way to put a cursor on it. Oh yes, that's great. Thank you for the inspirations.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is fabulous.
Okay, I want to say thank you to my moderator and museum volunteer, Sarah Francis, and much appreciated. We all kind of had a weird day today, so we're really happy that this came to fruition. Thank you to our panelists. And I do want to say that the museum is still on winter hours, so we're open 6 days a week. We are closed on Wednesdays, open 10 to 5. This weekend is the last weekend for our annual mini show and sale. And so if you want to see some great Taos County artists artwork and
Tiny paintings.
small, yes, minis, with the opportunity to purchase them, that this is the last weekend for that. We will be closed on Saturday because the museum is doing strategic planning. And I think that's about it. So thank you all so much. It was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks for having
We
us.
loved having you. You were marvelous panelists and great information. I mean, this is probably our best amount of information to our participants. So thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.